the Africans are right. They knew what they're talking about. They lived there. It's an okapi. And so these are creatures that came to light because of the study of cryptozoology. Could it be some of the great reptiles are still out there, like the plesiosaurs, the long-necked swimming great reptiles, or perhaps some of the walking great reptiles like this triceratops? Could those be out there? Or maybe some of the flying great reptiles. Could some of these pterosaurs still perhaps be found out there? I want to give you some possible locations right now where we might be able to find some of these great reptiles. Up close to where I live in New Hampshire, in Vermont and New York, they have a lake called Lake Champlain. And there's a creature that lives in this lake they call champ. And here's a photo that was taken in 1977 of this creature champ. And this is an animal that we believe is probably a plesiosaur. How many have heard of Loch Ness Monster? Okay, that's probably the most popular dragon out there still, right? I've actually been to Loch Ness. Unfortunately, this photo and a lot of the photos are very dubious. There's suspect as to whether or not they're for real. Here is some sonar images that were taken of this creature. Showed a flipper and a long neck. But it was taken by this guy, Robert Rhines, and people even they argue about some of these photos. Here I am at Loch Ness. Very black, mysterious lake, very, very deep. Beautiful area. If you've ever been to the northern part of Scotland, it rains a lot, very lush, very green. But you can put your hand in the water, and it's a very black water from all the moss, the peat moss. You can't even see your fingers. So you could believe a monster lives there. But like I say, most of the photos they argue about them, they're disputed. So I don't know, maybe it died out, maybe it's still there, I'm not sure. When I was there, I did talk to a fellow that had a boat, and he would take people out on the boat. I actually went on his boat. But he said, I've seen large sonar images going underneath my boat. Very large. So maybe it's still there. Maybe there's caves down there and it can hide out there. But it's just a beautiful area there in Loch Ness. Another long, deep lake is Lake Okanagan in British Columbia. And supposedly there's a creature that lives in this lake called Ogopogo. How about that name for a monster? Ogopogo. Well, that's actually an Indian name. It goes all the way back to the time of the Indians. But this lake is 800 feet deep, and this monster supposedly lives in there. Well, I went up there to check it out, and they have pretty good pictures, pretty good video of this creature. And I actually saw the Ogopogo phenomenon. Here I am in a boat. And you can see we were out there on a nice clear day. We came around one of these bends near Ellison Provincial Park, and the water got very calm. I said, well, let's just stop here for a little bit. We stopped the engine, and there was a hump that came up out of the water. Didn't see a head or a tail, just a hump. And then it started going off at a high rate of speed and left this big wave. And so I'm driving the boat, and I yelled to my wife. I said, Gloria, turn the camera on. Get a picture of this hump. And she's busy with my daughter, telling my daughter, get your hands out of the water. And I'm saying, who cares? My daughter can sacrifice her hands in the interest of science. Let's get a picture. Where are your priorities? Well, eventually she got the camera on, and all we got was the big wave it left behind. You can see there's a boat off in the distance coming around that island, but there was no boats anywhere near us. And so this wave was left as this creature submerged and took off and headed out towards the open lake. But I did see a hump. That's all I saw. It's a big hump coming out. Then there's this ropin. Now the ropin is one of the creatures that we think we're going to have a decent chance at getting. But it's nocturnal, so it's very difficult to get a picture of it. Even if you got a picture, people would say, you made it up. It's too easy to fake pictures. We got to catch one. And I've been multiple times to Papua New Guinea trying to find this ropin creature. Flies around at night, and it has a glow, a bioluminescence, like a firefly. It can light up for a little bit and then goes out. Very interesting. The fiery flying serpent is still alive there in Papua New Guinea. They call it the ropin. And so that's probably the next creature we're really going to chase after, try to catch. It lives on these islands off to the shore. We went there, and based on the reports of the people, we think it's something like this Dimorphodon. And we hiked all over these islands. All these islands are volcanic. They have these volcanic peaks. And in the very top of the peak is a caldera of an old volcano, and there's lakes up in there. And we thought, well, maybe the creatures go into these lakes to get some fresh water, because you can't be drinking salt water out here. And so we had infrared photography and night vision equipment and thermal imagers, and we were there for 3 weeks, and we saw it from a distance. Saw this glowing flying from a distance, but never close enough we could actually try to catch one. We've got tasers and net guns, and we're going to try again here at some point. I want to tell you about a creature called the Mokele mbembe. Some of you boys and girls already heard about this. But there is a creature, long-necked, long-tailed creature, that lives in equatorial Africa, in the Congo, in Cameroon, and the natives call it Mokele mbembe. They supposedly have killed these creatures, and does anybody remember what's the name of these very short people? Who remembers? Yes? Pygmies. The pygmies killed these creatures, and they supposedly even ate them.
Ew.
Don't know how that worked, but that's what they said. So we went on an expedition. We flew down into Douala, and then took a vehicle to Yaoundé, to Yakaduma, and eventually all the way down to Malundu on the border with the Congo. But this was our trip in Cameroon. Here is my guide, Pierre, and my buddy Bill, and we're there. And eventually we're filling up with gas here at a jungle gas station. And here we see some pygmies. Look at the little bellies of these pygmies. They don't have much to eat, so their bellies kind of stick out. Isn't that very sad? Look at their clothes. They're like just rags. They have hardly anything nice to wear. Here is the pygmy chief, and you can see how short they are compared to me. I'm not a particularly tall person, but they don't even come to my shoulders. Here we hired some of these guides to take us off into the rainforest, and we went off in the rainforest. And here's some of the trees from the rainforest. Look at the prickly tree and that really big tree. You know, so, and there are bugs, and it would rain on you. You put up your tent in the rain, and there's mosquitoes, and then it'd come a little sunshine, and it would rain again. And all the time you're sloshing through swamps. Here's a little bit of our hacking our way through the vegetation. But yeah, we're hiking through swamps day after day after day, hiking through rivers, and just getting our feet all soaked, and all day long we got foot rot. And eventually, after a lot of hiking for a lot of days, we came to the Bumba River. There's the Bumba River, and this river is where they say they know this creature, Mokele mbembe. They say we come along with our dugout canoes, we come around the bend, and there will be the creature. When it sees them, it goes under the water and flees. It's very scared, very easily frightened off. It doesn't want anything to do with people. And so the Mokele mbembe lives in the banks of the river. It eats this particular fruit called malumbo fruit. It eats the vegetation. Well, we had brought with us an inflatable boat. And we pumped the boat up, and here I am floating down the Bumba River. You say, well, Dave, what about crocodiles and hippos and the Mokele mbembe? Well, you got to take some chances, right? So there I am floating down the Bumba River. I never did see it, but we talked to a lot of people in villages along the sides of this river, and they told us stories about the creature, and we believe it's about the size of an elephant. So it's a fairly large creature, but much smaller than the fossil record. Again, things are getting smaller. They are de-evolving. Here's an eyewitness. Here's one of the things I learned is that these creatures will fight off crocodiles and hippos by fighting with a tail. I learned that from multiple people in Africa. Here's a dugout canoe we rode in, and this is the very bottom. That is the Congo. That's the bottom of Cameroon. That's the river crossing. And the guy who runs the ferry and guards this place says, yeah, I've seen this creature just 3 months ago swimming in the river. So they are there, and the people know of them. This is a nest of a Mokele mbembe, an abandoned nest. Here is a scientist who came down after us, and he got pictures of footprints and casts of footprints of this creature. But I need to wrap up so we can get ready for our morning service. And I want to just talk very quickly about the accuracy of the Bible. Accuracy of the Bible. Revelation 12 says this: there's a great red dragon, and his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven. What is the offensive weapon of the dragon?
Its tail.
The tail. Right? So that's what Revelation says about the dragon. And remember in Job, he moves his tail like a big cedar tree, like a club. And that's what the pygmies say. It fights with its tail. I began to research this, and I found that an old book on dragons talks about the dragon swiping its tail around elephants and hurting the elephants with its tail. It says its strength lies not in its teeth, but in its tail. It kills with a blow rather than a bite. So here you have the Bible, the pygmies, and an old book from the time when they still knew dragons in Europe, and they all say this creature fights with the tail. Very interesting. I think they all knew this same creature. Even some modern paleontologists in a science magazine have suggested that diplodocids could have used their tails like a bullwhip, achieving supersonic cracks to intimidate their enemies. These tails came down so long and so fine like a bullwhip, they go snap and really be able to nail things with their tails. Well, I've got lots more information on this stuff in my book, which is available for sale here, or go out to the website, genesispark.com. But hopefully you can understand why I like to say dinosaurs are living evidence of a powerful creator. And we should use these creatures to tell people about our great God.